Absolutely. That's cool, man. I like that a lot. So let's talk coffee really quick, because it's funny that we're chatting about this today, because I actually just roasted my first batch of my quote unquote coffee. And I'm not selling it just yet. Like, but what I was doing is, like I said, I was giving these when I did these interviews. Speaking of which, after this, remind me, I want your address. But like, I've been sending these thank you gifts for people that come on the interviews, and I was been sending, like I said, the merch, a handwritten note, and then it ends up being the coffee. But I was sending other people's brands coffee. Like, do you know who Graham Stephan is from YouTube? The finance guy.
Sounds so familiar, man.
He's a super popular. He's got millions of followers, subscribers on YouTube. Finance guy YouTube. I enjoy his YouTube, so I was like, when he came out with his coffee, I was like, let me support his brand, and then I would send that in the gift as part of the gift. And then I was like, you know what, like, why am I not cohesively giving everything branded Jacob Restituto? So it's like, so I teamed up with some guy that had been roasting coffee, and I was like, hey, you want to do some sort of collaboration? And now we have the Soundcheck blend by Jacob Restituto and DZ Java. So now everybody's gonna get a whole branded thing of coffee. But so I'm a big coffee fan as well, and I would love to just chat coffee for a couple seconds, and hear about your. You already mentioned that you guys are doing like the traveling coffee, but let's just talk coffee for a couple seconds. And I'm very excited for you to give me some feedback on what you think when I send you this. I want hardcore feedback. If it sucks, you need to tell me.
Dude, yeah, no, I'll definitely try your coffee for sure, man. I love trying coffees and doing samples. That's a very smart branding thing to do. I was just gonna say, we definitely could, if there's ever something down the line, we can always do a collab too with our coffee company.
I love it.
So yeah, dude, coffee is a huge thing for me. But if you asked me 3 years ago, Jacob, I couldn't tell you the difference between a drip coffee versus an iced latte. Man, I drank when I was a kid. Pops, he would drink the coffee black, and I would, the saying of like, you do want a little coffee with your cream and sugar was, how I kind of drank it. But funny story, everything happens for a reason, I believe. And so, honestly, just the girl I used to date, she just loved authentic coffee here in Kansas City, like local, like legit third generation single origin coffee shops, not Starbucks and Dunkin's. And so that was kind of like where I fell in love with it, just because I was pursuing this girl, like she loved it, her family did. I'm like, hey, I want to be a part of that. And so that kind of played the line of like just being passionate about coffee. And so I really think to this day, if that girl never happened in my life, even though we broke up, I don't think that business idea, our coffee company, would ever be existing, which is really cool. Because I think if there's someone out there right now listening, they're going through a suffering or a breakup or some death, or you lost your job or something, like, I believe, change that perspective. Everything does happen for a reason, and sometimes you don't know it. Maybe the next day, maybe it takes a year, 2 years, but I promise you it will. You put your mind to it, you work, trust me, something will show up, and you're like, dang, okay, that's that light bulb. That makes sense. That's why that happened,
Absolutely.
So I just want to kind of share that real quick, because I still am human, man. So it's like, I don't want people to think like, listen, Christian's he's just like on top of the mountain. He never has any struggles, no problems. That's the last thing I want people to think of. But yeah, man. So I was super passionate about coffee. I was tasting coffee. I was doing coffee reviews. I'm like, dude, I want to like how do I merge my purpose, helping people, creating business, but then also have a passion, like my product, what I'm passionate about is this coffee product. And I was like, I don't want to do a brick and mortar, because so much money, then there's so much, loans and debt, but also I still want to travel. I'm doing the podcast. I have, the mowing and landscape business that I own. And so I'm like, that doesn't seem feasible for me. So, you see the trailers and stuff, but in Kansas City, there was really no name brand coffee cart, like a little like legit cart that would go to weddings and pop-ups and business events and birthday parties, all those different events you can think of. And so I met with my friend, who's now the co-founder of Phase 2 Coffee. And we're like, let's just travel. Let's create a system where we can travel and bring authentic, great coffee to people's events. And so the name Phase 2 is basically like, what's your next phase in life? And so there's two guys, two of us, and then we're pursuing our next phase, which is the coffee phase. Oh, that's cool. But honestly, it's transpired more to a brand. It's more than just coffee for me right now, man. It's a brand. And so it's like any event that we go to, whether it's a wedding, a birthday party, going away party, business, real estate, it's always someone's next phase in life. Oh, and then cool. Also, we are the next phase in coffee in Kansas City, and hopefully the United States and the world. That's where we're kind of targeting. We have a lot of fun projects on our way. And then also, like, we want to create a social media environment stemming from a foundation of the coffee, to create like people, young entrepreneurs, especially the Gen Z and Gen Alpha, where they can come and they can pursue their next phase.
What is Gen Alpha?
The Gen Alpha is like ages like 10, 12 below. So anyone like
after
born.
Gen Z.
Yeah.
So it's going from Z all the way back to A again?
yeah. So now we're at Alpha. Yeah. So I just found that out a couple weeks ago.
I've never heard that. That's the first time I've heard that.
I know. So Gen Alpha is after Gen Z.
Oh my gosh.
So it's kind of crazy because you got millennials, Gen Z, then Gen Alpha.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, man, that's just kind of like the thing. It's more than just coffee for us. But we partner with a local coffee company. And obviously in the future, we would love to roast our own coffee. But right now we're actually going to what you said. We're actually collabing with our partners here in Kansas City. And we're going to create our own phase 2 roast so we can like collab with brands. We have an ambassador. We have a producer ambassador. We're going to have some fitness ambassadors. And we're coming out with merch. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the ways of just getting samples back and forth. There's so much stuff going into it. But yeah, man, as far as coffee goes, always supporting local for sure. If you're asking like what drip coffee, man, I'm probably going to go from like a medium dark. But that's usually my go-to. But right now I'm like really liking these more fruity, light medium roast.
Really?
Because there's so much it's like almost like that sour taste. It's just like you can like feel all your taste buds come to life in that light medium roast. But yeah, man, that's kind of the little backstory of me and coffee. So.
I love that. And this is for people, I'm sure you know this already, but for people listening, the interesting coffee side note is that most people assume the darker the coffee, the better, the more it'll wake you up. But that is actually not the opposite of the truth. The truth is that the lighter the roast, the more caffeine it has in it. The darker the roast, as you cook it, it cooks out the caffeine, which is interesting. Yeah. But darker coffee smells better, and it gets more of the aroma. It is such an interesting process, dude. So, I mean, just talking really quickly about the coffee a little more before we go on, I want to talk about your agency that you're starting. But before we go into that, it's a really interesting process, and it's part of the reason I enjoy it so much is the same reason that I enjoy whiskey, or the same reason that I enjoy, like all these things is like they're an art to them, not, it's an art and a creativity, because like watching the guy roast this coffee, or hearing how people distill whiskey, or do things with cigars or wine, and there's first of all collectors, and I love the collector aspect of it. I think that is so cool. People collect wine or cigars, or why they think this is such a cool thing, whatever. But not only that, it's like if you adjust one thing, it's completely different. If you add a little bit too much vanilla or caramel in the whiskey, it's a totally different blend now. 100%. For the coffee, it's 3 parts Sumatra. So I think the first one we did was 6 pounds. It was small, and then we're doing another, I don't know, I think 6 or 10 pounds next week, and just doing small little things to kind of get it out. Because I'm giving away for free. So, but it was 3 pounds of Sumatra, 1 pound of Egyptian, 1 pound of Brazilian, and 1 pound of Guatemalan. But like if you change that, add whatever, another pound of Sumatra, it's a totally different flavor. Or if you roast them too long or too little, it's a totally different flavor. And I love the art aspect of it.
I know, even the air temperature, a couple of degrees makes a big difference, with the roasters, and even from going from the roaster to the bag, how it's stored in the bag, how long it's been on the shelf, and then to how well you grind it and how much water per grams you pour into it, the coarseness, it literally makes a huge difference.
It's an art form. I love it.
It is. I love it too. You said process. I love the process, because the process I still think is so underrated. And we even connected on this, I think, with Gary Vee. Gary Vee always talks about, just enjoy the freaking process, right? And so it is so true though, man, because like the coffee, like there's so much that we go into it, we take for granted. I think like we always just take coffee, just drink coffee every single day, but for the origin, for you to get what you have in that cup, what you're about to drink, literally was an entire process. It wasn't just an instant thing.
Dude, that is a metaphor for life. Holy mackerel.
It's a days, weeks, years. So when I think about that, man, whether for me it's like the highest point of the process, like my relationship with my God, or to like my relationship with people or friends, like drinking that coffee is always a good reminder. It keeps me humble. Like, okay, Christian, like don't have gratitude, stay humble. It's about the process. And it took multiple people to literally get this cup of coffee that's $5. And so it's like the simple things in life really matter.
You're right, man. And that's a metaphor for everything in life. You see an artist that's blowing up online, and 99% of the time, we're just like, oh, that's just, they don't, you don't see the 10 years or 5 years or 8 years or 15 years of that it took to get there with 150 songs. Or that is so fascinating. And like I, as an artist, I do see that, you know, I see the perspective, but I've never thought about that in the granular aspect of these things we take for granted. A cup of coffee that takes us 3 minutes to brew, that took actually, you know, 2 years to get here, because, you know, that is really wild, man. That is a really interesting perspective. I love that. That is really cool.
Yeah, patience is so important. And Matt and Abby were doing like YouTube videos, dude, and for 9 months, 10 months before they even got on TikTok. And then from then, like, they weren't having really any views. You know, it's hard kind of to grow on YouTube with what they were doing. And so they got on TikTok, and then about 3-4 months later, they started to blow up. But, you know, from the span, it took them about 2 to 3 years to be where they're at today. And I think sometimes people might just stumble across them and say, oh, they probably just woke up and like they just got, you know, lucky. It's like, no, like they almost went a whole year with like literally like just putting out YouTube videos and got nothing, you know. So
I love that, man. And that is why they are my wife's favorite TikTokers.
There we go.
So when I spoke to them, I was like, my wife like lost her mind. She flipped out. She's like, oh my God. So it's crazy.